Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Randy is back, bringing freedom
Woohoo!
to potential with coaching for relevance. Man of the hour. Randy, say
How you
hello.
doing?
There's always an amazing introduction for you. And I'm like, you know what? I always talk too much. Tell us who
Well,
you are.
well, I'll tell you what. I'm Randy Swaim, and I'm a. I know what it's like to live your dreams because when I look at my journey, it has been amazing. Um, of how I've lived my dream as a pilot, flying jets, and all of that, and also teaching and certifying and developing, jet pilots even now, and also a Marshall Goldsmith certified executive coach, and um, and I'm also a master level certified neuroplastician with the Institute for Organizational Neuroscience in Germany, and so I bring all of that together to make other people more effective, to help them to get a sense of insights that maybe they hadn't seen before, to make themselves better, their teams, and all of that. So it's just what I do, and it's always a pleasure to connect with you here. And I know we've connected together on shows for a long time, and it's always a pleasure.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Pleasure having you here. And how do we contact you to start?
Well, I'll tell you what, if somebody needs to contact me, they can contact me via, if you go to my website, coachingforrelevance.com, down at the bottom of the homepage, there's my an email and a cell phone number that you can call. As you know, you've heard me say this before, but I don't do sales pitches on the phone.
Hmm.
I just build relationships. I mean, if it's something that somebody needs, yeah, will we come
Beautiful.
up with something and make that work? Yep,
Uh,
absolutely. So.
well,
So just kind of amazing on that.
Thank you so much. All right. What did you have in mind for us today? There's always great lessons to be learned and also great books we got to talk about too.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, what I'm going to kind of mention today is an aspect that a lot of the people, when I mention it, a lot of the people that listen to this will probably remember seeing this in the news this last weekend, and it's kind of amazing from that, because it's when you're talking about leading teams and such, you have to be careful about how you're um, leading your teams and employing a totally unethical, dysfunctional aspect. Even if you are successful in what you're trying to accomplish, how you do that is, you got to be careful of. And
Yeah,
so that's just something that I'm kind of looking at there on that, and I'll kind of share where it came from. The people that are listening will probably remember seeing this or hearing about it in the news and stuff. And so if you're ready, I'll go ahead and kind of share on, start on with that.
perfect. We are ready to go. Always a pleasure to hear. Let's go.
Cool, cool. Well, I'll tell you what, you may remember that in the this weekend, remember in the college football games, there were four college games where at the end of the game, the two teams got into a violent, you know, group fight against each other. And so much there were people trying to get in and help it, kind of thing, and everything, but they were getting totally into it in a fight. And when you understand why that happened, you get a sense of what I'm talking about with what leaders are going to do. And it's going to be kind of a picture or an image of kind of where I'm sort of going to take it, so to speak. But the reason that happened is, on my understanding, on all four of these teams, there was a um, there was a at the very end of the game, the team that won the game and I think all four of the games, the winner of the team was the visitor. They were playing in the losers stadium,
Okay.
kind of thing, for the most part. And what was amazing is at the end of it, when all of that sort of happened, what the people that won did right at the end one of the things that they did, and in fact, I saw a picture of this in one case, what they did is they ran out with a flag of their team,
Okay.
with the emblem on it, and went out on the field and jammed it into the ground. They sort of embedded their flag on the home team pavement there, and that's what initiated the fights and all of that.
Oh.
And it was something that involved numerous players on the two teams, and the basic insight I just want to kind of bring out on that is when you do that, you are being very unethical. You are being very dysfunctional. You're just trying to call attention to yourself. And so many people are just trying to pat themselves on the back and, yeah, don't you love it? Because this is us now, kind of thing. And,
Mm-hmm.
we're in charge of your stadium right now. Well, no, you're not. Not
Yeah.
even close. And by the way, a team that I love, I think was one of the winners, kind of thing.
Okay, I see. I'm not into sports, but I did hear about this. I didn't get to see it though, so
Yeah,
now I
yeah.
have to go Google and watch it later.
Yeah, yeah. And what it did, but the way that instituted was when the winners went out and took their flags and their banners and stuff and pushed them into the field of the home team, which if you think about it, that is grossly, and I mean this sincerely, that is grossly unethical, unprofessional, and whatever. And one of the things that leaders have to be aware of is even after you win, how are you going to react? How
Wow.
are you going to be developing your team to react? Because, you think about it, and even in football, if it's a close and tough game, a lot of times the people that are leading the team, and maybe in some cases the coach, who knows, kind of thing, they just want to fire up all the emotions. And what happens is, even after they win, the emotions are going berserk and they're just causing things that are not good and professional, kind of thing. When you win the
Mhm.
game, you should be happy that you won the game, and all of your people should be happy that you won the game. It is irrelevant to go try to do something like putting your sign on there to say, well, say we beat you, so this is our place now. No, it isn't. It's their
Wow.
place, and
Wow.
they may win the next game. Who knows, kind of thing, kind of thing. And but the bottom line is, people, don't fully understand that aspect of it.
Yeah.
That when you're talking about leading your team in that kind of an arena and everything, as a leader, as a coach or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the question that I ask is, when you've been successful, how do you need to rethink and focus how you are going to lead and model your team in that? Because you know what? If you won the game, guess what? We don't need to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
We won the game, kind of thing. And likewise, if you're leading your team in a challenging, unpredictable environment, and by the way, if you do win the game, that doesn't mean the other team's worthless. No,
Yeah.
there may have been one thing that they forgot, or one thing that they didn't see that came on scene that they didn't, work with well for 60 seconds. Who knows, kind of thing. And but you've got to be aware of, even when you were successful in a situation that you were dealing with in your team, how do you need to rethink how you do what you do? Because here's the thing, like this case this weekend, you know what? And I mean the fights that generated were very violent in how they
Mm-hmm.
they did it. And in fact, it was pulling jerseys off people and knocking them down and hurting people, trying to hurt people, kind of thing. Let me, if I'm trying to compete against a couple over here or a couple over there or something like that, guess what?
Yeah.
May not be anything that is really crazy, But you know what? If I win, that's what we need. We're glad. That's what we wanted. You don't need to be unethical and go try to call attention to yourself. Because here's the thing, if you won, you proved yourself to be successful that one time. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're going to win every single time.
Yeah.
And so it was an interesting story on that, and we could talk a little bit more with it and stuff. But when you're talking about leading your team, how are you developing your people so that if it was a football game that you won, your players are not going to do that? Because when you're talking about leading your team, that's a very dysfunctional, unethical aspect of management, not so much leaders. Leaders don't do that.
Yeah.
And leaders don't model that, and they don't encourage that kind of behavior. And it's if you're completely, in fact, I think you probably heard me say this before, but if you're thinking of completely, and this is unfortunately what a lot of people around our society and everything sort of do in their mind of how to do it. They think that by generating the emotions so much that they just shut their brain off and their emotions just go crazy, kind of thing. If that's how you did it, then you're not getting the job done.
Yeah.
Your people, the emotions are not the thing that's driving it. Can it help? Yeah, but it's not the external emotions that come from the situation. It's the awareness of what you're trying to accomplish in your brain and in your neuroscience, and how that generates the emotions of what we can possibly accomplish today. And what happens is, as a leader on your team, are you aware of in what cases and what situations your team is being dysfunctional and not doing it right? At what extent are you realizing that they're depending on something that is not truly what they should be depending on?
Ooh.
And once it happens, um, some bad things can happen. And like I said, that happened as I understand it. I didn't see the entire thing, but as I understand it, that happened to 4 different games this last weekend.
I didn't see any of it.
And
I'm so out of the loop. I'm sorry, Randy. I'm not a sports person, but I am a
well,
news person. I did hear
oh, well, well, to be honest, so am I. I'm not a big sports person. The colleges that I appreciate, I kind of watch for what's going on, but I don't watch games or anything like that. I'm like you. I don't do that either. But when I heard this, immediately it came to a leadership perspective in my mind. And I
hmm
said, yep, that's right. Because if you are trying to just squash everybody, and once you are successful in one aspect of it, all you're trying to do is call attention to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's all you're doing. That's not ethical. It's not
Yeah.
professional, and it's not what you want to be doing. And so the thing is, what those teams that won should have done is forgot about this thing with the flag. Now, if you want to go in the locker room and hold flags up and cheer yourself, that's okay.
All
Nothing wrong with
right.
that. But when you're out there in their stadium, in their home, and you're doing everything to just do that and call attention to yourself and all of that kind of stuff, there's some aspects about that are just not professional when you're leading your team. And guess what? When you talk about, even off of sports, when you're talking about leading your team
Mm-hmm.
in particularly a rapidly changing environment where things are not always predictable, guess what? There are times where people have a tendency to kind of initiate that aspect of it. And that is what you don't want. And it's just, it was a good picture of what I'm talking about there. And when you look at how you're interacting with your team on a day-to-day basis, if when you look at how you're leading them,
Yeah.
also when you look at how you're modeling for them, I throw this out to leaders and managers that are listening. How clear are you on aspects that you need to change? And so that those kind of dysfunctional aspects don't get out of the way. Because here's the thing, if that becomes a central part of what you're trying to accomplish, the actual leadership and synergy and effective strategic planning and vision and all that go away. And it just becomes overly superficial and not good. So it's just something to think about that came out. Like I said, when I heard that this weekend, it was like, you know what? That's exactly the leadership aspect, and particularly very aligned to organizational maneuverability, where you're where things are not always academic, they're
Yep.
not always superficial, but to what extent are you or your team, people on your team,
True.
doing things that is getting in the way of what you're really trying to accomplish and model and demonstrate for yourself and to become. And, if those kind of things was it was like I said, a good story and a good picture of leadership when I heard it on the news, and it showed a couple of the recordings of the recording of what happened. And like I
Wow.
said, I saw some pictures on Facebook and stuff, and the pictures showed a real vindictive, almost hatred in the way they were fighting and all of that. And you know what? Even if it's in a combat situation in the real world out there in military where you're
Mm-hmm.
World War I or World War II or whatever, Korea, Vietnam or whatever kind of thing, or the Gulf War, whatever. Even in a military environment, that is not what you want your people to be doing, because guess what? They're processing. When that's the thing that's driving it, your processing goes away. And one of the things in this case
Mm-hmm.
is, in this case, when their emotions took over and just went out there and did that, putting the flag out there was irrelevant. It was nothing.
Wow.
It was dysfunctional, but it was nothing. But guess what? Look what it engaged. It engaged a vindictive and very sort of violent multi, fight between
Yep.
players from the two teams. And is that what you really want to become? I would say no. In no leadership
No.
role, you don't want to do that. And so it's just something to think about. And I know that a lot of the return on from some of those pictures and images were not good, kind of thing. But it is, if you let your team do that,
Yeah.
guess what? Your legacy is not what you want. You're like, when you win, if you're competing against one or two,
Yep.
groups or something, and you kick the bucket and you win, guess what? You don't need to be doing that kind of junk. You won. And so what? Can you go out there and be professional and look at what,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing on
And
that and everything? Absolutely. And but uh, it's just a key aspect that so many people in out there, depending on where they're trying to, get this done or whatever, kind of thing, is something that leaders need to be aware of. And
yeah.
also they need to be aware of when they see some evidence that, even if it's just a couple of their team members are coming are kind of coming up to that. And if
Yeah.
uh, and if you do, you need to kind of sort of, and I don't mean squash that, but what I do mean is take it off the rail a little bit and find out how you need to connect with that person in such a way that they don't go there and they don't keep doing that. And that's or just some aspects about it that a lot of people don't sense. And so with my whole aspect about organizational maneuverability and certainly leadership and developing people and all that kind of stuff, when I heard that in the news, I said, that's the central part of this, because the thing that generated those fights was
Wow.
exactly this sort of stuff, where you had people, the visitors that won the game, taking a flag out or a banner or something, and it's almost like posting it on the ground, And guess what? If you've just lost the game, and the winner is doing that kind of stuff, they're almost making it sound like this ain't yours anymore. It's ours. No, it isn't. It's theirs still. Leave it be. enjoy the win, be glad that you won, and move on. And so it was just an interesting part when I heard that in the news. I realized I was very much aware of the actual leadership part of this that really came through. So you know what, when even in winning situations, how do you need to be aware as the leader of your team? In what ways do you need to enhance your awareness of when those kind of dysfunctions are happening? Because if you let them happen, guess what? You're making your team unprofessional, unethical, and dysfunctional.
Wow.
And so it's just something to think about on that. And when I heard it, I said, you know what? I think that's where I'm going to take today.
And there you are. I have to watch this now. Wow, a whole show is about this, and I didn't even see it. I feel so out of the loop, but
Well,
I get the
that's
principle. I
okay.
get the overall advice. You
Yeah. Well,
know?
and it really is just like I said, it's just as a leader, it's not just about telling your people what to do, and particularly if they screw something up. It's also modeling for them and helping develop them how, even after they win, how are they going to do it? Are they going to kind of do it arrogantly and narcissistically and unethically and
Mm-hmm.
unprofessionally? Or are they going to be professional and ethical and really good in what they do, even though they won? I mean,
Oh,
is it good to be glad that you won? Oh, absolutely. But to take it overboard where you're causing problems and you break into a huge fight just because of some arrogant thing you did, that has to be squashed. And that's not leadership, and it's not uh, making your team what they need to be. So it was just an interesting story when I heard it, and I said, "Yep, that's something," and it's very aligned with organizational maneuverability when not everything fits exactly what you thought it would be, and how you're going to lead them, but also how you're going to keep them from being stupid, even
yeah.
if they get even if they get successful
Ah,
on the one thing. So I just share that with you because it's very aligned with kind of, as soon as I heard it on the news and saw one little, you know, 60-second recording kind of thing of it, I went, oh, yep, because that's all leadership. That
ah,
when your team members are doing that kind of stuff, that needs to be squashed. And there is no way they should have been putting their, you know, flags and banners out on the uh, uh, the ground of the stadium out there.
mm-hmm.
Because guess what? This is not your stadium. It's
Nope,
theirs. Now
nope.
they lost. You should be happy that you just won and be able to walk away.
Yeah.
And so as a leader, that's something else you got to kind of be watching for. So it's just one aspect of that sometimes people don't think about.
Thank you for sharing that. We still got 3 more minutes left. How did you want to sum up you today? How we contact you? How we work with you?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm very good at bringing neuroscience and also mental processing and all of that kind of stuff. But I also bring coaching perspectives to what I do. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and as I mentioned, I don't do sales pitches. What I do is I look at it from the standpoint of um, just having relationships with people and building relationships. If somebody has a need, yeah, we'll initiate some coaching. We'll
Okay.
get some coaching going and everything. Um, but I don't do sales pitches. I just, because I want people to be able to feel comfortable with just reaching out and having a conversation and stuff. And but you know what? If I find out that there's a need there, will I tell them what that need probably is based on what they're showing?
Yeah.
Probably. Yep. And I won't be anything less than honest. But on the other hand, like I said, I don't. I just look to build relationships and to make and as I've shared with you before, one of these days, when I take my last breath, whenever that is, I hope that 20 years later, there's people that may not even remember my name, but you know what? They remember one little insight
Yep.
that we talked about that made a big difference in their life, and that's what I want to bring.
And you definitely will. That and so much more to the table, Randy. Thank you. And just tell us about your book, where we can get a copy of it too.
Okay.
Or
It's Bringing Freedom to Potential, and it's my
Mhm.
autobiography. I will say this, that everybody that has read it has responded in ways that kind of blew me away a little bit, in with the words that they said. But it's on Amazon, and you can go to Amazon and look for Bring Freedom to Potential, and it'll come up. Or if you want to make it easy, you can go right to my website, Coaching for Relevance, and you go to the homepage of it, and about 3 seconds or so after you're there, a banner of my autobiography comes up, and right under the picture of it, there's a little link that says get your copy, and if you click on that link, it takes you right to Amazon where you can purchase it.
Hold on.
And I'll also just share this with you too. I haven't heard the confirmation of it quite yet, but about 2.5 weeks ago, I was told that the Hollywood 78-minute documentary of my life journey that is being created by Hollywood was going to be complete within 2 weeks. So it's probably almost on the threshold of being complete, where I can watch
Everything's
it.
late. It's like construction. 2 weeks, but awesome.
Yep. But once it does, they're going to send me a copy of it. I get to watch it, and when I prove it and everything, then we sign a contract, and it goes on to HBO, Netflix, and all of these places.
Wow.
It also goes into DVDs, so you can go to DVD stores and order it and purchase it. And so, but I've been told that with my story, this was the director who heard my story and stuff. He said, "I'll tell you, Randy," he said, "this story is just incredible."
Beautiful.
And
Well, looking forward to it. Thank you
so
so
anyway, that's
much.
what it is.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here, for joining us, and looking forward to talking more before the holiday. Enjoy your day as always, and we'll chat soon, okay? Thank you
Sounds
so
good.
much.
And listen, and Jill, I totally hope you have an incredible Christmas and an awesome New Year. I look
Same
forward to
here.
continuing to work.
I hope so too. All right. So we're not back till after the holiday then?
Well, no, we may be if
Oh.
if they have me on for next week too. That's
Got
good.
it. I don't know the schedule. Okay. I was like, oh, we're saying goodbye already. All right.
No,
Thank you so
no.
much. You have
If-
a
if-
great day.
Yeah, if they put me on for next Wednesday, I'll be here for sure.
Great.
So
Thank you
listen,
so much.
you have a great one. It's always a pleasure,
Same
my
here,
friend.
Randy. Bye-bye, darling.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.